a rising star cut down by a faulty gear shift, a possible victim of the Poltergeist curse, and a plane crash that launched the CIA conspiracy theory. These child stars may have had varying degrees of success in their careers, but all of their tragic passings occurred in strange ways. Anton Yelchin got his start in acting at an early age, booking his first TV role in a 2000 episode of ER, before delivering a memorable performance in the film Hearts in Atlantis. Yelchin successfully navigated the often tricky transition to adult roles, most notably portraying Pavel Chekhov in the Star Trek film franchise.
I can do that! I can do that!
Yelchin's star was on the rise when he was killed in a freak accident involving his vehicle in 2016. TMZ was the first to report that his body was discovered pinned between a mailbox and the security gate in front of his home by his SUV, which had rolled down an incline while in neutral. Yelchin's parents filed a lawsuit against the vehicle's manufacturer, Fiat Chrysler, claiming that the vehicle's gear shifters were responsible for the fatal accident. Indeed, just a couple of months earlier, the company had recalled more than 1 million vehicles due to confusing gear shifters that led drivers to think their vehicles were in park when they were actually in neutral, resulting in numerous accidents. That was precisely what had happened to Yelchin when he exited the vehicle to punch in the security code. One of the biggest child stars of the 1980s, Gary Coleman played wisecracking Arnold Jackson on hit sitcom Different Strokes.
What you talking about, Willis?
Coleman had suffered health problems from an early age due to nephritis, a congenital defect of the kidney. As a result, he required dialysis throughout his life and had undergone 2 kidney transplant operations, one at the age of 5 and another when he was a teenager. Given his chronic medical issues, Coleman's life expectancy was shortened, and in his later years he experienced some well-publicized health scares, including a seizure in February 2010 while on the set of The Insider. Just a few months later, the 42-year-old actor suffered a serious fall at his home just outside of Provo, Utah. Coleman was rushed to a nearby hospital where doctors determined that he'd suffered an intracranial hemorrhage. Coleman was conscious when he first arrived at the hospital but eventually slipped into a coma. He was placed on life support, which was discontinued soon after. In a statement, a spokesperson revealed that friends and family were at his side when the life support was terminated. Just 6 years old when Poltergeist was released in 1982, Heather O'Rourke catapulted to stardom as Carol Ann, the film's central character. She went on to reprise the role in 2 Poltergeist sequels and appeared in several TV series. Months after completing Poltergeist 3, O'Rourke, then 12, died on an operating table in a San Diego hospital while undergoing surgery to address a bowel obstruction. The obstruction led to an infection that caused septic shock, which then resulted in pulmonary and cardiac arrest. What made O'Rourke's death so bizarre was that she hadn't demonstrated any symptoms, even though she had the undiagnosed condition since birth. O'Rourke's tragic death came to become the cornerstone of the so-called Poltergeist curse, which included the grisly murder of her on-screen sister, actor Dominique Dunne, and the eventual deaths of cast members Julian Beck and Will Sampson. Matthew Garber has delighted generations of children via his role as youngster Michael Banks in Disney's 1964 musical Mary Poppins. Garber made just 3 movies during his brief Hollywood career, all Disney productions. In addition to Mary Poppins, he also appeared in 1963's The 3 Lives of Thomasina and The Gnome Mobile in 1967. After that, he gave up acting and returned to normal life in London. A few years after his graduation, Garber was visiting India when he became infected with hepatitis. In the summer of 1977, he decided to return to London for further medical treatment. Sadly, he'd waited too long. When he finally made it back to England, medical tests revealed that the hepatitis had spread to his pancreas. He died at the age of 21. The official cause of death was determined to be hemorrhagic necrotizing pancreatitis, a rare but serious condition that had been left untreated for a tragically long period of time. A popular child actor in her native Britain, Mya-Lecia Naylor experienced early success as star of the kids' show Tatty's Hotel, before going on to appear in films such as Cloud Atlas and Code Red. From 2014 until 2018, she was a cast member on the popular British series Millie in Between. She was just 16 years old when she died under tragic circumstances. A subsequent inquest determined that she died by hanging and categorized her death to have been caused by, quote, misadventure rather than death by suicide. E! News obtained the coroner's report in which the assistant coroner came to conclude that Naylor's death had been accidental. Her father, Martin Naylor, concurred when he testified at the inquest, stating, "She had not been her normal self. She was stressed about her exams. I honestly believe she was just making some sort of point. I genuinely believe she did not mean to do it." Madison Wright was just 9 years old when she made her on-screen debut in a 1994 episode of Grace Under Fire, before guest starring in the Fran Drescher sitcom The Nanny. Later that year, she was cast in the NBC sci-fi series Earth 2, which ran for just one season. She continued acting for a few more years, making her final appearance in the 1998 comedy Safety Patrol. Wright was forced to put her acting career on pause after an X-ray revealed her heart was dangerously enlarged. She was diagnosed with restrictive cardiomyopathy, a condition in which the muscles in the heart's lower chamber become rigid and won't fill with blood. In 2000, 15-year-old Wright underwent a life-saving heart transplant and subsequently became a vocal advocate for organ donation. In 2006, she married Brent Joseph Morris. One day after the newlyweds returned from their honeymoon to their home in Lexington, Kentucky, Wright had a fatal heart attack. She was just 21 years old at the time of her death. Best known as a member of the boy band Together, actor and singer Michael Cuccione made his screen debut in 1997, appearing in an episode of Baywatch. Prior to that, he'd had a difficult childhood, as he was just 9 years old when he was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma. Cuccione underwent an aggressive course of chemotherapy that lasted for 6 months and was eventually declared free of cancer. Unfortunately, a routine checkup 6 months later revealed that the cancer had returned and Cuccione required a bone marrow transplant. That medical procedure was successful.
He always had a positive attitude, even at times when he was struggling, and he did have, fear of what was going to happen next.
However, intensive chemo had left his organs in a perpetually weakened state, particularly his lungs. In late 2000, Cuccione and his mother were involved in a car accident, and he underwent surgery to repair a damaged diaphragm. While hospitalized, he became ill with pneumonia. His lungs had become so weakened by the chemotherapy from years earlier that 2 weeks later, he was still unable to breathe on his own without a respirator. In January 2001, he died at age 16. In 1982, 10-year-old Samantha Smith had been watching TV shows about the Cold War, horrified by the idea of nuclear war. She wrote a letter to Soviet leader Yuri Andropov, asking what plans he had to avoid it from happening. The letter made her a sensation in Russia, and in 1983, she and her parents were invited to visit Moscow. Her popularity also exploded in her homeland. In 1984, she hosted her own TV special, Samantha Smith Goes to Washington, Campaign 84, interviewing various American politicians. She then went on to dabble in acting, guest starring on Charles in Charge, and playing a recurring role in the TV series Lime Street. In August 1985, Smith and her father were returning to their home in Maine after she'd been shooting Lime Street. They were flying in a small commuter plane when the aircraft crashed while attempting to land, killing them both. Oddly enough, Smith's death sparked a conspiracy theory in the Soviet Union, which claimed that she'd been assassinated by the CIA because her childish efforts to avoid nuclear war didn't align with America's aggressively anti-Soviet policy at the time. The R-Gang shorts from the 1920s and 30s, later renamed The Little Rascals, featured many memorable characters. Among the most beloved characters was Alfalfa, played by child actor Carl Switzer. As Switzer grew older, acting roles dwindled and he found himself typecast. Relegated to low-budget B-movies and bit parts, he made ends meet by tending bar and hiring himself out as a hunting guide. He also bred dogs as a sideline, and in 1959, Switzer sold a dog to a fellow named Moses Stilts and believed that he still owed him $50. Switzer had been drinking when he showed up on Stilts' doorstep, demanding that the debt be repaid immediately. According to Stilts, Switzer burst into his home and a scuffle ensued, during which Switzer pulled a knife. Stilts, however, one-upped the former child star when he pulled out a gun and ended the altercation by shooting Switzer dead. Stilts was put on trial, and his claims that he acted in self-defense were upheld by the coroner's report. The jury agreed that he had been defending himself and deemed Switzer's death to be a justifiable homicide. Best known as Darla in The Little Rascals during the 1930s and 40s, Darla Hood shone in the role. Hood continued her acting career into the 1950s as a series regular on The Ken Murray Show. She went on to experience success as a singer, and she also did voiceover work for TV commercials, singing jingles for Campbell's Soup and Chicken of the Sea Tuna. Hood was just 48 years old when she died in 1979 after undergoing a routine operation to remove her appendix. An autopsy subsequently revealed that she'd received a transfusion of tainted blood during surgery and had inadvertently been infected with hepatitis, which led to heart failure. Just 5 years old when she was discovered, Judith Barsi had a successful run as a child actor. Barsi was cast in dozens of commercials before going on to appear in numerous TV series and films, including Jaws: The Revenge, and providing the voice of young dinosaur Ducky in the animated hit The Land Before Time. Sadly, the young actor's life was cut short in 1988 when 10-year-old Barsi was found dead in her home alongside her mother and father, Maria and Joseph Barsi. Joseph had killed his wife and daughter, shooting them both with a .32 caliber pistol. After setting the bodies on fire, he fatally shot himself. Subsequent reports pointed out that there were plenty of warning signs indicating Barsi was being continually abused by her father. A posthumous Los Angeles Times expose quoted a relative who claimed that when Barsi left for Barbados to film the Jaws sequel, her father threatened to slash her throat if she didn't return. As her parents' marriage deteriorated, Barsi became so stressed by her father's threats of violence that she plucked out all her eyelashes.
I wish that Daddy'd stop shouting at Mommy.
She told family and friends how terrifying her home life had become, allegedly saying, "I'm afraid to go home. My daddy is drunk every day and I know he wants to kill my mother." If you or someone you know may be the victim of child abuse, please contact the Child Help National Child Abuse Hotline at 1-800-4A-CHILD, 1-800-422-4453, or contact their live chat services.